So we're going to go into attachment theory now. So we'll start with the anxious. So if you see in your notes, this is a summary. This is anxious, preoccupied, insecurity, high anxiety, fear of abandonment. The trigger response is often fawn or freeze. If you don't know what a fawn means, it means trying to befriend, and it's almost a people-pleasing behavior. If someone triggers, they will try and almost put them first and get on the same team or become their friend. Fear of being alone. Chronic survival mode. The chronic survival mode can come in, it comes through as being almost always anxious, high anxiety in relationships, the constant fear of being left or being betrayed or abandoned. Preoccupied with relationships. So the anxious preoccupied, what that means is that they're almost obsessing over the partner, obsessing over the relationship, obsessing over whether they are showing up perfect enough, or if they're doing enough, or if they're loving enough. It's just this a lot of anxiety and thinking about the relationship. Codependency. So I'm going to go through all those traits again and go into more details. So the one thing that insecure attachments have, including the anxious, is the insecurity. Now, the insecurity often leads to these anxiously attached people to seek this outside validation, and they're seeking a sense of worth and value from outside of them, because usually as a child, their parents were not able to give them enough of that validation, enough of that loving affirmations, validation, touch, affection, presence, to give them that sense of confidence and that sense of security within themselves. And so they grow up, and the unmet need there is basically not enough love, not enough loving words, loving actions, loving touch, loving presence. And so they kind of grow up trying to fulfill this need, and they'll often try and fulfill it, especially in relationships. Sometimes it can be career, but that's more the avoidant. They'll most likely put their job and their career and their status and all their accomplishments over relationships. The anxious will often try and find it in their relationships. And that's what leads to codependency. It's because their sense of worth and value is being deprived. They're seeking it from their partner, because as a child they didn't get that from their parents, so then they'll seek it from their partner. And this could be a sense of, I'm worthy, I'm lovable, I am important. And that's why they're so preoccupied with the relationship, because this is a real need that they're trying to meet from their childhood. It is a real unmet need, and that's love, and that's validation, that's feeling enough, and that's approval. And this leads to high anxiety. Now, with preoccupied, anxious, attached, the anxiety is fear. There's an underlying fear. And the anxious preoccupied, their fear is often because they put so much of their love and expectations and a dependency and that need into a relationship, that need for love and approval into the relationship. Anything that goes wrong in the relationship can leave them very vulnerable, because they don't realize it, some of them don't realize it, but they are putting everything they have into this relationship. And so if the relationship doesn't end, then that doesn't work out, then there's they're left with a lot of pain, and it brings up all the childhood wounding, and that belief that they have deep down, which is I am not worthy, I am not lovable. They have to face it after a separation, and that's why it can hurt so much. But the anxiety is the fear of the relationship not working out. They're putting so much into it, and it's scary. It's scary for them to have to face this reality again. And yeah, the anxiety it's them trying to, almost on a level, like there's a deep need to feel loved and accepted and good enough. And they're all fear-based. They're all fear-based beliefs that maybe they're not lovable, and they're not worthy, and they're not valuable. And the fear really often came from the childhood. That's how, because these needs weren't met by the parents, they developed these beliefs. So the fear of abandonment, and there's a spectrum to abandonment. It may not be that as a child, people that have anxious attachment, it's not that in every instance they were completely left and abandoned by one of their parents or both parents. It could be a level of neglect. The parents were overworking, not being around them enough, not spending enough time with them. That is a form of abandonment. And yeah, the fear of being alone. So the fear of being alone, it's to do with the abandonment. There's a connection there when the parents are not around enough, or if one of the parents left, they had to go through this deep pain of loneliness, of disconnection, of not feeling safe, not feeling enough support. So that is almost a emotional imprint that's in the body now. And as an adult, the adult would do whatever they can to not face that again, to not have to go through that again. So they'll almost do whatever they can to keep the connection at the expense of themselves. And this is why those with anxious preoccupied, they may stay in abusive relationships, because there's a childhood trauma there that they haven't fully resolved. They haven't gotten to the place where they know that they're actually really safe, and that they are lovable, and that they will be okay if they're alone. What can happen is, on the healing journey of those healing from abandonment, initiation, it's almost a rites of passage for them, is to actually intentionally seek time by themselves. Even if they're in a relationship, can they allow themselves to prove to themselves that they are going to be okay if they're alone, and that the world's not going to fall, the world's not going to collapse, and that they're going to be okay. And every time the anxious preoccupied, they do choose to spend time by themselves, they're proving this belief wrong, which is the subconscious belief that if they are left alone, they're going to feel terrified, they're going to feel abandoned, they're going to go through a lot of pain, because as a child, that's what would have happened. It's a bit of initiation, because in the beginning, it's natural as well to initially feel a lot of that pain, but that's the unprocessed pain from the childhood. The unprocessed pain of when they were alone and they panicked because they thought, what if someone comes in the house and kidnaps me now, or what if the monster under the bed gets me, or whatnot. There can be initial sense of terror or anxiety when in the beginning, when choosing to spend time by themselves. But with practice and support, and that support could just be a reminder, like, hey, yeah, you're spending this time on your own, but you're going to be okay. And can you have a journal? Can you listen? Can you surround yourself with music or like things that will make you feel good? And just practice being alone. Just practice realizing that you're not going to die, and that the world's not going to fall apart, and that some people, to heal this, they may take up spiritual practices. And these spiritual practices could be meditation, mantras, and working with a higher intelligence to give them a sense of support and holding. Yeah. Yeah, so the chronic survival mode. The chronic survival mode is on the healing path, it is common for those that are anxiously attached to be in this go mode for a while as they are coming into that secure attachment. They're in this go mode because on a level they are running away from themselves. They're trying to run away from the pain. They're trying to run away from the sense of, so they go from one thing to another and to another to avoid feeling what's underneath that's been stored from the childhood. Also, if they're not feeling safe in a relationship, or if they are in an abusive relationship, there can be a tendency to stay busy so that they can avoid the fact that they're with someone who's not good for them, or someone who is abusive in some way. And again, it is a way of protecting. It's a protective mechanism to feeling the pain. It's almost as though it's very similar to being stuck in the head, except a person may, instead of getting stuck in the head and being overly living from the mind all the time, it could actually just be being overly busy. That's a very similar thing. So any questions around anxious, attached, preoccupied? So I'll share with you a few ways to heal the anxious, preoccupied. Well, one of it is choosing to spend time alone with the right support. And when I say right support, some people may have a coach or a therapist, or be in like a group therapy journey where they're not doing it on their own. They come together to process and to understand what's going on, but then when they're apart, when they're on their own, they get to practice what's spoken of. And it's about progress. It's about making progress. So that's one way, and the other way is learning to reparent themselves through embodying the healthy traits of a healthy mother and a healthy father, and learning to talk to themselves in a way that's loving and compassionate, and it's also through the practice of mindfulness and learning to stay with their emotions, learning to stay with how they're feeling, learning to stay present with themselves. That's another healing journey. That's another way of healing the anxious, preoccupied. So instead of abandoning the self, it's choosing to stay connected, staying present, and that is a progressive journey. And that could be done through spiritual practices, meditation, praying, and over time it's reprogramming how they speak to themselves. It's reprogramming the ability to be comfortable being on their own, and also reprogramming the tendency to abandon or check out on themselves, and instead stay mindful and present. Any questions around that?